Welcome to podcast 63 from Tyre and Rubber Recycling. This episode comes to you from the Tire Cologne, where we held a Tyre Recycling panel at the Circular Economy Theatre. Questions in part one of this two-part podcast cover: can tyre recycling become truly circular? Will EU legislation improve recycling? Will EU end waste strategy ease recycling, or will it simply ease shipping from A to B? If regulations on new tyre content are increased, will that impact on the feedstock for recycling?
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Circular Economy Forum at the Tire Cologne. It's the last session of the exhibition. My name's David Wilson. I'm the publisher of Retreading Business magazine and Tyre and Rubber Recycling magazine. And we've been here this week for 3 days of seminars, product presentations and panel discussions from the field of tyre retreading and tyre recycling. Once again, thanks to Ingo Riederberger and his team for facilitating this conference and for giving us the platform to run it. Once again, a note to say that all the sessions have been recorded and will be posted on our websites, YouTube channels, and Facebook channel afterwards. So the session this afternoon, we're moving to tyre recycling. The subject of this panel is tyre recycling in the circular economy, and we've got 3 eminent people from that field today. We have Frank Cremer from Boulder Industries. We have Stephan Rau from the WDK, the Rubber Producers Association from Germany, and we have our own editor for Tyre and Rubber Recycling, Ewan Scott. And I've got about 10 questions that I want to ask them this afternoon. I don't know whether we'll get through them all, but we'll try our very best. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
So I'm going to start with a really big question, and that's can tyre recycling ever become truly circular? Ewan, you're the editor of Retreading Business, Tyre and Rubber Recycling. Why don't you start with that one?
Right. The question of tyre recycling being fully circular is, I think, open to debate. I think it is in part circular. But when we look at the stats, globally, 50% of tyres still get burnt. We're a long way from that circular economy. I think we have a large part of the tyre cycle is linear, and what the industry needs to do is step by step improve the circularity. But I think there will always be a big challenge for the tyre manufacturers in how much of that recycled material they can put back into tyres. So I think we're a long way from having a circular tyre economy, but it's something that we need to work towards.
Stefan?
First of all, thank you for having me here on the stage. And yes, I think we can become circular at a certain point. Well, at the moment, and the circle, I think, is how do you define the circle, and what radius does that circle have? If the radius is very, very, very big, you might not see the circle yet, because you're still more or less on a straight line, and the slope is just coming. We discussed this a bit before. Depending on what you call circularity, to put a tire back into a tire, I think we're still way beyond or way before getting there. But if you define circularity as not taking new materials out of the ground and producing something new from it, but you keep everything you have in a loop, and this loop might be very, very awkward because it won't be a circle. I think then we can achieve circularity, and I think in a lot of ways we are already there today, because out of tires we make great products. Some of them are introduced back into tires, yes, of course, but a lot of them goes in other products which last much longer than tires do. And perhaps in 20, 30, 50 years, when these products come to the end of their life, perhaps we have a process that can recircle them or recycle them and get them back into a tire. You never know, because 20, 30 years ahead, we're not there yet. So there might be some breakthroughs that might lead us to a circularity, a full circularity.
Okay, Frank.
Yeah, also thank you. We from the pyrolysis system take a different view on it. At the moment, we start this month with one tire producer in the US, a real circular solution. So we take their old tires, or which was not running well on the production side, and producing then our Boulder Black, our RCB. And so we start. We're only a small part of these, but it's possible to do. And all of these products is going back into the tire. And what we also see is that the tire producer are now taking a look and take a get on the oil, on the TPO. So they don't want only buy the RCB, they also want to buy the TPO to get it back. And we see it like that. We try to choose the right clients that I see these products again at my gate. And then you can start a circular solution. But overall, you can be never 100% circular solution for tire, because we lose a lot of things on the road.
Yeah.
So I only can recycle what I can get in.
Yeah. Okay.
But we start.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to another question, and that question is, can Europe legislate to improve recycling at source? So I think Stephan is the person to start with for this one, seeing as this has been a subject on the Azure Network activity this week.
Well, yes, and I think especially the legislator is the one that can promote recycling, because on the one hand they want recycling, they put recycling in more or less all legislation, green legislation. We have a Fit for 55 and green circularity and everything at European level. But on the other hand, they don't want some of the products that are in the initial products back in the circular process, or in the product that is made out of that primary product, or in the secondary raw material. I think something we have to keep in mind, and we discussed this morning as well, is I think there's often the fear that we agglomerate and that we concentrate things, chemicals that we don't want to have in the final products, because everybody thinks that it's a concentration process. But if you do it right, it's not a concentration process, because you always add new material to whatever you use in that recycling process. So if you take a tire, you grind it, you make a flooring out of it, you add PU, you add a lot of other substances. So we're out of that concentration process, and I think the legislator has to also, that's at least what we've been lobbying for, is to not look at what's inside a product, but what can come out of a product. So go away from a preventive legislation up to a risk-based legislation, because only what is dangerous and available is risk. We've tried to compare it a bit to if you're somewhere, if you're in Africa, you're standing in front of a lion. That's the risk is 100%. So because the danger is there and the possibility of being attacked is there. So if you have a lion in a zoo in a cage, then the risk is zero, because the danger is 100%, but the chance that he attacks you is zero, and that's where we want to go. But what legislation often wants is no lion in the cage. Which makes a zoo more or less, or makes whatever we try to do obsolete, because we cannot do something which is not possible, and that's, I think, something the legislator needs to understand, and what we're lobbying for as an association, and what the European associations are doing as well.
Excellent. Okay.
It's a challenge. Stephan has mentioned the risk element of it, and just back in April, Matthias Pellegrini from Directorate General Environment told the ETRA conference, if there is a risk, if there is the slightest risk, then we will not allow the recycling of the product. This came about because they were asking about the reintroduction of crumb rubber infill, which is another discussion altogether. But we need the legislator in Europe and UK, Turkey, wherever, we need legislation to drive recycling, because the motivation to recycle is great to think, yeah, we'll be green, we'll do things better, but the bottom line is it costs money. So if it costs money, without there being legislation to drive it, we would still be landfilling tyres. And as a matter of fact, in some countries in Europe, we still landfill them, despite the legislation.
I could only completely agree on it, and we have the same view. But it's very important also, from my point of view, is to give this, let me say, row, or the line where we have to go on. Because what we see at the moment is you see this legislation, and what they are doing is only acting, but don't thinking what will become up on the next stage. And I think here we have to change. And the most important thing as well, and this is linked, I think, also to another question, like, is it waste? Is it a raw material? Is it like that? And that's more important, what's coming out. And I see this also with Klein. The people ask me, oh, there are pHs in. Oh, it's important what your end product has in, not what each feedstock will be of. So, and I think here, let's see what's coming out. At the moment, we don't see really good things coming from the EU. I think we need more.
Yeah. And perhaps I think the discussion is often not fact-based, but emotional. So you try to scare the consumer, or you're afraid of the consumer because he's your elector. He will elect you. So if you try to help him, you will be helped in being re-elected. And this drives you towards perhaps a more emotional approach than a real scientific, factual approach to some of the problems we're dealing with. Because if you look at them factually and scientifically, most of it is not a problem.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on again. Question 3 is, will EU-wide end-of-waste status help develop markets, or will it simply ease the shipment of materials from A to B?
I can also start on this. I think for shipment it will be helpful.
Yeah.
But as you know, in Europe it's a little bit different. For example, try to build a plant in Italy, an RCB plant and pyrolysis plant. It's not possible. So I think here it could be help. We want to have it, but we should be also aware of that we are then will become too competitor to other companies who use and want to have it as waste because they burn it or they want to do other things with it. So we like it to have as a feedstock and raw material. It will help our business, but I think it have impact on other business. And I think here it will be a challenge to achieve this.
I think we need to be careful on and I think this is one of the problems that the EU has, careful on the definition of end of waste, because if it's not properly controlled, we will have material just simply been shredded and shipped as an end of waste when it actually isn't. It's an intermediate product, and I think we need to be careful. And I think we come to this later on, but we want to see more domestic recycling. I think recyclers in Germany want it, recyclers in the UK want it. We need to develop our own industries, and so we need to be careful that we don't just simply ease the shipment of materials abroad.
I agree with that, but since we're looking at different processes in the the circularity of the business, especially of tires, you have the reuse, you have the retreading, you have the granulation, so that be the material recycling or the chemical and recycling pyrolysis and the burning at the end. But any of those steps needs to be taken into consideration in this end of waste status, because depending on what you want to do or what process your end of life tire will be dedicated to, this end of waste is particularly vital, because especially if you have casings, and if casings are shipped as waste, you have other difficulties in accepting them, in transbordering them somewhere else, even if it's a worthwhile process to do. And there is an end of waste regulation, or not a regulation, about the European level that has to be adopted in national regulation. So some countries already did. I think the question is, how can we implement that at every national level to make sure that the circularity in the process, or at least the reuse of the product, can be promoted as much as possible, and we have the less product being just shipped away for burning or for bad recycling processes, because a recycling process that works well here might not work as well somewhere else, and you add to a carbon footprint of that product as well. So it's a difficult question. Yes, we're working on that at European or at German level. We're talking with the Ministry of Environment and trying to get an end of waste status for most products, especially for end of life tires.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a pan-European process. The idea that something could be end of waste in Germany but not in Austria or Italy is a problem. But I get the sense from the forthcoming transshipment of waste regulations that Brussels is going to take more control of waste and centralise things so that they're more in control, and they will be able to say, this is a pan-European legislation. You don't have to do your own thing in Italy or Slovakia or wherever. This is the legislation. You will meet it, or and that is it. End of the line.
I agree on it, and I think the most important thing is that we all of these different recycling recover businesses go together, because for some is of interest to end of waste, for the other one not. And I think here we need to find a solution which works for everybody, and because all of us is needed. Everybody is thinking about, no, I only need the scrap rubber, this tire shred, whatever. No, without all working together, we will be not successful. So, and all of these different applications are needed.
Okay, so let's move on. Next question relates to the very obvious difficulties that recycling technology companies have in attracting significant investment to help them upscale their operations. What do you think these companies can do to attract investment so that they can expand?
I think we'll give this one to Frank.
Yeah, I think that's it.
I think all of us at the moment we see on the pyrolysis or chemical recycling, we have a big problems to get the money in. What we see is at the moment we need for these, let me say, the clients behind who are really interested in using it. It will be coming up, but we cannot start producing. The volume I can produce is too low for our clients. So, and I think it moves at the moment also to bigger companies who will be also investing. We have a tire producer who investing in these companies, and that will be help. The problem is really at the moment the expense of money. And we need all of us, because when I have 60 million for one plant and I need to build overall for NACB 10 plants, I will be not able to get it. So I need at the moment 5-6 different RCB producers to get the money in. So that's our view on it, and it's a problem. We hope we can close our financial closing this month. If not, we see what happened at the moment. We are in delay on 2 years at the moment overall, I think.
So we have a sort of chicken and egg case where you have the technology, you have the products, the market wants it, but you can't get the financing to make the products. So you have a cycle, a never-ending cycle, and it needs a start point.
I'm a chemist, and my problem is I think the investors at the moment, they're taking more look to get fast her money back. And I think here we need the right investors who think about, okay, the next 10 years and not the next 3-4 years, what usual is in. But this company has money.
But why would you want to invest? You want to invest if there's a demand. And to create a demand, you need awareness. You need awareness amongst the public who are ready to perhaps pay a bit more for certain products. That's difficult enough. three words: green public procurement, meaning that even government and authorities, communes, cities could start already delving into those products and say, we want to be sustainable and we want to support this sustainability. And if you do, the industry can produce more. So I think it could be a win-win situation if it works more. What we did within our association, we created a small brand which is called New Life, in which we promote products made of end-of-life tires. And that works really well, because what we do is we go out, we make lessons for landscaping schools and landscape architects, and these lessons are built on those recycled materials. So we tell them how to use those recycled materials, because they will be the ones asked then by the cities or by the communal leaders when there's not something new to build. They would ask, how can we be sustainable? And say, hey, we know there is recycled product that we can use. And that already worked very well in Germany. But the thing is, you still have to have awareness amongst. I mean, why would you, if you would want to go out and say you want to pave your patio, would you think of taking a recycled product? No, you won't. First of all, you wouldn't know where to get it from. And I think there's a lot of things to do, as you said, the chicken and egg discussion. But you would get more investments if people are interested in, and then you see the investors will invest in the companies producing these products. So we have to start the process somewhere.
It's not so easy. The demand is there, and but to think about it, they don't only want to invest in Boulder, they want to invest in this chemical recycling, for example, and this means they need different companies. And this means you need a lot of investors and a lot of money. So we're talking about then billion, not million. Yeah, because we need 4, 3, 5 companies who will producing and starting at the same time. Because if the volume is not there, the tire producer cannot use it. And the approvals are there, and they have approved it. They're able to use it.
But the thing is, we have the technology, and we need to make sure that this innovative technology is used and paid for, let's say, here in Europe and not somewhere else in the world, and then transported somewhere else, and then we have to buy back the products that kind of we invented, and those companies produce them somewhere else. And I think that's, as I said, I think it's an awareness question, and the awareness will hopefully create more interest, more investment in the process. Yes.
If I can quote Sander Vermeulen from Michelin, Michelin could make a 100% sustainable tire with a high recycled content today, but the market will not pay for it. The consumer will not pay for it. So there's a balancing act. Whilst we need to educate the industry and politicians, we also need to bring the consumer on side. The consumer is, we're told, keen to look at sustainability and greener products, but when it comes right down to it, the bottom line is how much does it cost? And if there's a premium to buying that end product because it's recycled, the market isn't going to grow. We need to diminish the price differential between the two, and I think that could be done. The government could help with that, because the government has the ability to vary VAT rates, and simply by reducing VAT rates on the recycled goods, depending on the content, they could remove that price differential and encourage the consumer to buy greener products.
Yeah, we don't want, of course, we don't want more legislation, but I think sometimes perhaps penalizing the non-sustainable products, and of course, and one thing we've been always emphasizing, market surveillance. If you don't survey, if you don't test, if you don't look at what happens on the market from the governmental side, and you have really drastic penalties, who's interested in doing a good thing if you can get something else cheaper or at a lower price?
So it's a different way of looking at it. You either give an incentive or a penalty, one way or the other.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. If regulations on the content of new tyres are tightened up, will that impact on what feedstock can be used? So, for example, will older tyres with higher level of PAHs, for example, will they be able to be used into recycling, for recycling purposes, into new tyres, for example, which have got stricter regulations?
Well, I honestly, I set the question because I don't know the answer to this one, but I'm sure Stephan will have an idea.
I'm not sure if I have an answer, but as I said before, it's a question of concentration. If you, of course, keep concentrating your recycled product, you will, in the end, have more of those chemicals you don't want into a tire. But recently, we had a conference from Azur, where a professor showed a good model, and that model was a staircase and elevator. So you have a product at a certain point in time.
Yeah.
You recycle it, it goes down, so you go down the stairs, you get less and less product, and perhaps even the quality of the product from the initial product might decrease, but at a certain point you have to add new product, and that product can be sustainable from any sustainable source, and then you take the elevator back to the initial quality of the product, and there you would of course not integrate more harmful chemicals, because at that point in time you'll probably have another chemical legislation. So in the end you will perhaps even start diminishing and trickling down the concentration of per se harmful products. But talking about PAH today, even what we have in tires and what we have in the products today are known not to be harmful, but why do we have the problems? Because we have the wrong analysis method. As I said before, the lion cage zoo thing. So if we take migration, we know that hardly anything migrates out, meaning that today you would have to lie on a floor, naked on a flooring for 24 hours with 40 degrees fever to take up as much PAH as you would just eating a bunch of salami. So, you always have to take things into consideration. That's why I said we have an emotional debate at a lot of states, and we're not talking really about the fundamental scientific, fact-based approaches on a lot of things.
Yeah, from the chemical recycling, it is a different view. We have, let me say at the moment, two products that we usually sell. Okay, also the metal, but usually you have the RCB as well the TPO. And if there will be more PAHs or 6-PPD or whatever inside, it's not of interest for my RCB. It's cleaner than the virgin carbon black, what I'm producing. It's going into the TPO, into the oil. And I think the oil industry can handle it. It will be more of interest for our system if it will be heavy metals and something like that, because this will end up at the RCB. And that's will be a problem. So from the chemical recycling side, it's not a problem. We can use it as a feedstock. So we can use older one, we can mix it. So there's possible. But as I mentioned before, when you are out with your rubber scrap, then I have also an issue.
Thank you for joining us in the discussion. Your thoughts and comments are always welcome. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and you can always follow us on LinkedIn, X, Facebook and WhatsApp, or visit our website, or for full access, subscribe to Tyre and Rubber Recycling magazine.